Okay, well, I thought Matt was going to go, but I'll go. Okay. Uh, welcome, welcome to the Beard and the Bookie. Uh, as always, I'm the Bookie. There's the Beard, and there's Matt. Who I don't know. Is Matt alive?
Yeah, I think so. I just
Okay,
completely zoned out.
that's fine. Things happen. We're
Yeah.
here. Go ahead. You can take over now, Matt.
All right. How you guys doing today?
We're awake.
I'm feeling great.
Okay. Great. All right. So we're going to start with the NFL this week. So this was an interesting thing to me on Thursday. The Panthers are 3-0. They beat the Texans without Christian McCaffrey. Not like that's a big deal. But are the Panthers really legit? Or are they just skating by on some easy games to play right now?
Well, I mean, any time you're playing without Christian McCaffrey, I mean, you're kind of just praying for a miracle most of the time. That defense has looked way better than I think anybody really expected it to. And Sam Darnold, I guess, without Adam Gase handcuffing him, actually was a halfway decent quarterback. This is something I was going to bring up later, but I suppose we're talking about the Panthers now. Was Adam Gase like the offensive coordinator at Miami when Tannehill was quarterback?
Yeah.
Anybody remember? I can't honestly remember. Okay, so if he was, which okay he is, we're really seeing that like for some reason Adam Gase kind of hamstrings these quarterbacks because Tannehill got solid as soon as he went to Tennessee, kind of got a revitalization of his career there. We're seeing the same thing. Sam Darnold's not great, but at least serviceable. And them being 3-0, I think they're being gifted a little bit on their schedule, but they are playing better than expected at the same time. So full credit to them on that. I mean, Chuba Hubbard coming in as a rookie and putting in a halfway decent performance with McCaffrey out, solid. I think we'll see that continue. I don't think he's going to have a lot of pressure. They're not going to put 8 in the box on him, so he should be kind of a steady force. And Darnold's going to have to throw more in these coming weeks, but I'm not really surprised. I would say it's more just like a little bit better than expected, but I don't think it's a surprise based on the strength of schedule.
So what you're saying is the Jets have an Adam Gase problem, not a quarterback problem.
The
Jets have way more problems. Yes.
I was going to say, because well beyond Adam Gase. Adam Gase isn't there now. What's the excuse?
I don't even know where he is right now.
The Panthers defense is legit. The Panthers as a whole being legit, like Josh said, the schedule hasn't been, brutal really. So we can put a question mark next to the legit. I think this weekend goes a long way into answering if they're legit. They're playing the Cowboys in Dallas. That's a tall task. Just ask the Eagles on Monday night. That defense will be really put to the test. I think that defense can slow down the Cowboys offense, not completely, but enough. And, what Matt Rule is doing is he's giving Darnold enough pieces where he doesn't have to be Superman. He just has to be competent. And if I think Rule run the football a little bit with Chuba, have Darnold, work, short, intermediate passes, take shots, here and there if things kind of open up. But he wants to chew clock. He doesn't want to give Dallas, possession after possession after possession and play a scoring game. So, I think we'll know a lot more about Carolina after this weekend than we do right now.
Awesome. Speaking of getting to know some teams right now, so last week, speaking of the Cowboys also too, last week the Cowboys beat the Chargers the last second field goal. Right. So this week the Chargers come out and they beat the Chiefs 30-24. So are the Chargers good? or are the Chiefs really bad, or is it both, or neither?
You have half of it right. You have half of it right. The Chargers are good. Okay, as Josh will, I'm sure, bash on here as I bring it up. All right, when we did our NFL previews, I said give a look to the Chargers to win the division, give a look to Herbert as MVP, and that the Chiefs' big first five on that schedule was brutal. The only easy game is this week against the Eagles. You know, so the biggest problem with the Chiefs right now is that defense. The defense is abysmal. I mean, they're not I mean, the three of us could line up and score on the Chiefs defense right now. They can't stop anybody. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, you always have a chance. The problem is they're not giving Mahomes enough of an opportunity of being the guy with the ball last. Last week it was Herbert who had basically the chance to take the lead and put it away, and he did. Mahomes hasn't had that opportunity the past couple of weeks to be the guy to go down the field and put the game away. It's been in the other quarterbacks' hands. Kansas City will get right this week against Philly. I have no issues about that. And I think, the Chargers have a big game Monday night against the Raiders. And, for anybody who has questions about the Chargers, I said last week I had questions about the Raiders. The Raiders didn't really help me, throw away any of those questions with their performance last week. And I think the Chargers will win Monday night against the Raiders. And then all of a sudden, here are the Chargers clearly in front of the AFC West, barring what Denver does. But I think that Denver, much like we were talking about Carolina, and Carolina hasn't had a rough early part of the schedule. Denver hasn't had a rough early part of the schedule either. Denver hasn't played anybody in division yet. So, I mean, I was kind of all in on the Chargers early. Chargers haven't done anything to dispel that, and I'm not surprised at the early stumbles by the Chiefs because I kind of saw it coming. So, no, I'm not hitting panic button on anything yet.
I mean, Dan just wants to toad up the Chargers because he said that Justin Herbert's going to get MVP this year. It's not going to happen. And any team that's in third place in their division through the first 3 weeks is not a good team. Okay. Like, yes, they beat the Chiefs. I understand that. A Chiefs team that is becoming kind of a victim of their own hype. That's honestly what I think is happening with the Chiefs right now. I don't necessarily think that they're a bad team. I think Patrick Mahomes is a little bit too trusting in his own abilities he's getting himself in trouble. Some of the rollout throws that he was making, any other quarterback on any other team would not be allowed to get away with such throws. It wouldn't be allowed. The no look passes, as beautiful as they can be and as well as they can work, we've seen already when guys like Carson Wentz do this, it can end very badly. Ended poorly for Pat Mahomes in this instance. The team just doesn't have that same kind of flair. They don't have that same mentality. There's just something off overall with the team. And yes, the defense is bad. This is very kind of similar to what we saw with Seattle. Seattle goes out there and beats the brakes off of Denver in the Super Bowl, loses the heartbreaker to the Patriots the next year. And then that third year, the year directly after that, they just look like a shell of themselves. Kansas City really hasn't lost too many pieces. I think it's just more, we're seeing a lot more wear and tear. We're seeing the age actually kind of take effect. And you've got guys like Edwards-Helaire dropping the ball every other time he gets a hold of it. So I think the Chiefs will figure it out. They'll get that confidence boost this week with the Eagles. I think that Raiders-Chargers game is going to be a lot closer than people think. I actually think the Raiders are going to come out on top in that one. For some reason, the team is just weird right now. I don't quite understand it. But I think that they actually give the Chargers a good push. Like we said with Denver really hasn't played anybody. I mean, they played the Jets and the Jaguars. So it really doesn't get any easier as far as teams that you can play that early. So Denver maybe can keep it up this week. I think they're 7-point dogs on Sunday, but we'll really get to see kind of what kind of team Denver is, and they do have some injuries, but we're really going to get a taste for like what they can do there. So I don't think necessarily that the Chargers are a good team. I wouldn't say that they're a bad team. They're just kind of existing. I mean, you have two teams that are 3-0 above you. I'm not going to call you a good team. You beat the Chiefs, and with the way that the Chiefs are struggling, I'm not going to call them a good team for beating the Chiefs either. I can't credit them for that. So that's the division that we both thought. I mean, your prediction aside with the Chargers potentially being able to win that division, we both said the Chiefs were going to win that outright, and that's not looking great for us right now. So it's kind of weird. It's still early. We are 4 weeks into a 17-week season, so consider this like week 3. It's still a little too early. I'm really not going to say anything hard set in stone about any team until week 5, unless it's the Vikings, in which case they're trash and they're going to get the brakes beat off them by Cleveland this week. But that's for a different time.
That's awesome. All right, so switching to the NFC, but staying with the West. So the Rams beat the Bucs this weekend. Only the Rams and the Cardinals are 3-0 left in the West, and they play each other this week. So I can pretty much predict what you guys are going to say about who's going to win that game. But is there anybody in the NFL as a whole that could stand up to what the Rams are doing right now?
Yeah, the Bills. I think the Bills have a pretty good shot. For some reason, they kind of struggled a little bit against Pittsburgh's defense week 1. They've really kind of found their groove, and they're working through Josh Allen really well right now. I think that the Bills can kind of handle it. I think Josh Allen's versatile enough to make that happen. You've also got Zach Woods and Devin Singletary in the backfield. They're still capable and serviceable, and they can catch and run. So they have those options there. Diggs, obviously one of the best wide receivers in the league. He is kind of a solo threat, so him against Jalen Ramsey would be pretty interesting. Allen does like to pass the ball around, though. I mean, you're seeing guys like Dawson Nix getting some good touches. So I could potentially see the Bills giving them some issues in like a Super Bowl type area, but I think the rest of the AFC will be kind of toss up. The NFC, maybe the Cowboys. Dak looks out of his mind good right now. So as much as it pains me to give Cowboys fans anything to be excited about, I mean, Dak looks really good and the Cowboys offense looks good. They're also the only two teams that have really been able to put pressure on Tampa. And having gotten that win out of the way, Bruce Arians isn't really the Bill Belichick type where he gets better the more he plays you. If you kind of have him figured out and you can put that pressure on him, you should be fine. It's not going to be – you're not really going to see a lot of differences. And Sean McVay is more mature as a head coach now. So Cowboys, Bills, really only two teams I see getting in LA's way right now.
Good. What you think, Dan?
First off, from a betting perspective, since we're talking about the Rams and we just got done talking about the Chiefs, both teams right now are plus money to win their division. Rams are even money, Chiefs are plus 110. That would be a time to hop on that if you're so inclined. I will disagree with you here, Josh, in that I wouldn't discount the Bucs against the Rams in January. And here's why. When you look at Brady's history, and I get it was with Belichick and not Arians, but I'm just looking at the Brady aspect of this. When you look at Brady's history, when Brady loses the January, he usually is the guy to come on top. It's when the roles are reversed, when somebody plays Brady in the regular season, gets close but doesn't usually end up on top, and then gets another crack at him, that sometimes that they can upend him. Like, look at all the times that the Colts finally got past New England in those postseasons. Okay, they would have regular season matchups where Brady would end up winning the regular season matchup, and then Peyton win the postseason matchup. Or vice versa. The first Giants Super Bowl, they played that last week against Brady. When the Patriots were trying to be undefeated for the regular season, played them tight, lost, and obviously won the Super Bowl. So I wouldn't throw away Brady quite yet. Brady obviously was heavily pressured in that game, didn't have much time to do much. And I think and then things started to gel. It's still early for them. So I think Brady and the Bucs can get it together to match up with the Rams well come January.
I mean, I knew you were going to bring the Giants into that conversation the moment that you started talking about teams that they beat in the regular season that come back to win. I'm kind of upset with you, Dan, and let me tell you why. Last week, you said that the Giants were retiring Eli's number, but you didn't tell me that there was a second retirement going on that day. Because if you would have, I would have watched this game a lot closer. Apparently, your entire offense decided to retire as well. So that's cool. Now, granted, I did say you weren't going to score more than 10 points. However, not scoring a touchdown to the fourth quarter, come on, dude. And I told you Atlanta was going to win that game. Like, you guys, you're not as bad as your counterparts in New Jersey. You're really not. But that was just absolutely shameful, man. I don't know how Joe Judge and the rest of that office hasn't already been fired, but they're probably going within the next week or two. Matt Nagy's going to go first, and then Joe Judge is probably right behind
him. So we have to talk about trash. Not trash
Judge
NFL
isn't
team.
doing anything to help. Judge isn't doing anything to help himself, but the first guy that's going is Gettleman. Here's a guy who for 5 years. I mean, here's a guy in Gettleman who's talked about fixing the offensive line for 5 years and the thing still isn't fixed. So if somebody's going, it's him.
I think the roughest thing I've had to listen to all day.
Chat about the Raiders. We just talked about the damn Raiders.
I think that the hardest thing for me to listen to is Josh talk about how the Cowboys are great. Now I'm going to throw open my mouth. All right.
I didn't like it either, man. I didn't, but I had to do it. You asked the question. I had to give you an answer.
I watched that game. I did watch that game, and their offense is legit. Like, they're really good with the two different running backs. And if Zeke he stays healthy and keeps running like he does, along with Tony Pollard, that's going to be a hard team to stop, honestly. And I hate them with all the passion in my life, but that's going to be a hard team to stop. Speaking of hard teams to stop, the Packers 49ers game. 49ers drive down there, score a touchdown with just over, I think there was 38 seconds left, 36, 38 seconds left. Gives Aaron the ball, 2 plays all the way down the field, then they kick a game-winning field goal. Is Aaron Rodgers, I think he still is, but is he a legit MVP candidate again this year? That's a hard answer. Since you want to bring up the Cowboys, I got to bring up the Packers for you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. You're going to make me say things about the Packers. Awesome.
Uh-huh.
All right, fine. So, yeah.
No.
I have to agree with Dan. No. Look at the way he played week 1. He's not the Aaron Rodgers that he used to be. Okay. I don't know what happened this offseason, like whether his mentality just changed and he's not all the way back yet. I don't know, but he still has that killer instinct where he can make plays when he needs to. My only comment about the Packers in general is I really wish I knew what it felt like to have a quality kicker that could win games in the final 30 seconds. Like that would be a really nice thing to have. I don't have it. I haven't had it for 30 years. So we'll see. Rodgers looked good, but again, like Jimmy G's not that quarterback that's going to win you games at the end. Left too much time on for Rodgers. Rodgers is known for the last minute game-winning drive. He does it all the time. So I wouldn't say that he's necessarily like a legit MVP candidate. He's still a quality quarterback. He's still going to put up yards. He kind of has the offense that he wants, but it looks the least dynamic that it has in the past couple of years. So we'll see. I think the entire NFC North is a we'll see at this moment. Nobody's really standing out and looks great. Packers have gotten some good wins. They had a bad beat against New Orleans, who hasn't looked that good since. So we'll see.
What you got, Dan? He's got nothing.
Well, I think his internet's gone again. He's talking, but we can't hear it.
I can see him. I can see him going blah, blah, blah. Anything coming out?
I think he started glitching right around the time that comment came through about Justin Herbert for MVP, because that would give him any stream cancer. That's
probably
buffering.
Hold on.
I think he's just going to dip. Yep, he's going to dip. He's going to come back.
So Dan will be right back. So what do you think about that Ravens kick, man? That 66-yard game winner to set the record and hit the bar and then bounced in, which was insane. So I watched the Packers game. Obviously, my wife's a Packers fan. So I watched the Packers game, and Mason Crosby was like, I wouldn't try that kick. There's no way in the world I'm trying that kick. So what do you think about out of nowhere Justin Tucker just crushes a 66-yarder to win the game?
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw two record attempts yesterday. I mean, the Cardinals, or yesterday on Sunday, we saw the Cardinals kicker tried for 68, which I thought that was ridiculous. Well, he missed it by like 6-7 yards. I don't remember. I mean, it was 109-yard returns. Yeah. So I mean, that was a huge play, and that was early in the day. So that was right before halftime in a noon game or 1 o'clock game, and so seeing that, and then seeing Justin Tucker come out for 66, I was like, well, it's Justin Tucker, like the most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL. He would be the one thing to save the Ravens from a game that has just been embarrassing for them. And I mean, it couldn't happen to any team but the Lions, where it bounces off the crossbar and in.
That's so true, though.
In the same game where, they honored Calvin Johnson before the game, where they booed the owner of the Detroit Lions before the game, and then they're winning, but they are in a fight with the Baltimore Ravens, who just beat the Chiefs. They're making Baltimore look bad. They're making Lamar look bad again. And then Tucker comes out and just rips their heart out at the last second. That is the most Lions thing to ever happen.
Yes.
And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it, dude. But I was so happy to see that record finally got broken, because I feel like we've been talking about 63 for so long. And we see kickers making 70-yarders in practice and just never getting an opportunity in game. So I don't think we're going to see much. And Zach in the chat's Tucker for MVP. That was an MVP level kick. And that dude, basically he sealed himself as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, I don't care if he's a kicker. When he retires, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
He's the
Just on-
he's the AFC Offensive Player of the Week this week. So
yeah,
and why shouldn't you be, right?
he absolutely should be. That kick deserves every accolade that it can possibly get.
I think they should start. I mean, kickers do not get enough credit for it. I mean, obviously, when you're a Vikings fan or a Lions fan, you hate your kickers, but like they can win or lose your entire season on a stupid like even that kick for the Cardinals. He kicked it 100. He kicked that thing and missed it, and dude ran back a 109-yard touchdown. Like,
Yeah.
I
It was.
understand.
You know, just to kind of finish that off, the as a Vikings fan, it hurts to have a kicker. I mean, and kickers, I feel like have one wide. Oh my God, you just popped up on my screen, Dan, and you look evil, bro. That's crazy. No, like what's the guy? I feel dumb for not being able to know his name. He's a kicker, kicked for the Patriots all the years they won the Super Bowls, then went to Indy and retired.
Yeah,
Adam Vinatieri. Vinatieri is the most. He has more points scored in the NFL than any other player. So that shows you how important kickers can be. And Justin Tucker's, if he continues at this rate and keeps doing these things, he's going to be the greatest kicker of all time. I don't know if he'll ever surpass Vinatieri, but I mean, he's well on his way there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what
I appreciate
old
all
Gunners
the jokes about my new location.
that was hilarious.
Well, we didn't want to say anything, but
Hey,
just get your mugshot done.
Yep. I was gonna say.
Okay.
Just waiting for the anal probe.
Ooh, that's my favorite part. What?
Woohoo!
All right. So anyway, I know you guys have talked about like 10 other things since I left, but real quickly, writers vote for the MVP. They get voting fatigue. They're not going to give Rodgers the MVP this year. Rodgers just got the MVP last year. That's why he's got no chance of getting the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's going to Matt Stafford this year.
It definitely could. It could. If they stay the way they're going, then yeah, you could probably get it. And that would be very Lions of the Lions to lose Matt Stafford, and then he wins the MVP the next year.
It's almost like the only thing the Lions need is Matt Stafford.
Weird, right?
They might be a good team. Yeah, crazy.
No, they wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't be that.
That's true. Still be trash.
Let us not forget that they had Stafford with Calvin Johnson and couldn't win anything.
Yeah, but they didn't have anything else.
The Lions are like as organizationally inept as the Jets.
I don't know. That's a hard call.
No, because here's why. The Jets get the guy that might be a piece, but they never develop him, and then he goes elsewhere and becomes a piece. Whereas the Lions actually had pieces and just never accomplished anything with them.
I mean, they had arguably one of the greatest running backs of all time and never did anything.
Yeah, and he left because they were that bad.
He's like, I'm tired of trying to win here.
He was like, this organization is so shitty that I'd rather never play again than keep playing here. Okay? The only difference is he had enough respect for himself that he just left instead of Brett Favre, who left and then came back 47 times.
Yeah,
he went to the Jets.
He had the winning record with the Jets too.
That is very true. It is very true.
So he might be the last quarterback to do so.
Maybe.
Was Sanchez before or after Favre?
Sanchez took him to back-to-back AFC Championship games, didn't he?
I think so.
I don't know. Ask Gunner; he'll tell you.
I was going to say our Jets fans in the chat.
That was right before he butt fumbled.
Yes.
Ah, yes.
I think that was the following year. He butt fumbled the following year and became like the laughing stock. All right, you guys got anything else that you want to hit up on NFL?
Okay, I'm coming in late, so apologies. Have we looked forward to this week yet at all, as far as picks or anything?
We haven't done any picks. I was going to save them for the end.
Okay. No, I have nothing for last week.
No, I only have future stuff. I have my picks for I have 2 games, and I'm sure Dan's got his lock if you want to do that now. It's up to you.
We can save that for later. We'll save that for later. So move on.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to move on to NCAA football. So the top 25, I checked out the top 25 today. Alabama at number 1, Georgia number 2, Oregon number 3, Penn State number 4, and Iowa, right? Number 5.
That's what
I don't know. I keep choking on that one. I don't know why. Is there anybody that you think deserves to be in the top 5 more than those teams? I personally would argue Arkansas, but I watched the Arkansas-TAMU game. I would say that they deserve to be in the top 5, but that's just my opinion.
I don't have a problem with the top 5 as it sits right now because we haven't gotten a ton of conference play yet. That's when things start to matter. I mean, like Michigan and Wisconsin play this week, and that's like the first road game for one of those teams in like 2 years. I mean, there are some teams that have actually had real games early and established themselves. There are other teams that have just kind of, played their out of conference schedule, kind of going through it. Oregon at the top 5 is fine. They're undefeated, but they struggled last week. Does that say a whole lot about Oregon? I don't know. So, and I hate saying this with Josh on the show, but it's Alabama at 1, and then who cares?
For now.
Well, I care. I need to know who I'm playing, and I'd rather it be a good game than a blowout because you guys get tired of talking to me during a blowout.
No, but here's the thing. Okay, unlike most years, and I guess this is why everybody has this renewed interest in college, is that the 4, assuming that it's 4 and we don't go to 12 by the time we get there, will be different than normal. We're not going to get Clemson. All right, just anybody who wants to become a Clemson apologist, just go away. That's not happening. We're not going to get Ohio State, unless Ohio State goes on some crazy run. But I think that's too far gone. So we're going to get new blood. It's just a matter of who is the new blood and what history comes with the new blood. Like if Oregon gets in the 4, are we buying Oregon as real contenders? Because I've seen what Oregon did. Now that was with Chip, but I know what Oregon's big game, history is. Not that I'm now calm down before anybody jumps on this. Not that I'm saying they're getting in the 4, but if Notre Dame somehow were to go undefeated and get in the 4, nobody's buying Notre Dame as a contender because we know how that ends. So, let's see who the 4 is before I start going crazy, because just because it's a new 4 doesn't mean it's a 4 I'm going to feel is any damn different than the old 4. At least the old 4, I thought there were some competitive games. Like, Clemson and Ohio State was a competitive game. Things like that. I need to see who the 4 is before I start going nuts. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Dan on that. The big thing here is we're not really seeing necessarily a lot of new blood right now. Because, what Dan's talking about with the old 4, Clemson and Alabama had clashes back and forth that were really good in national title games. Clemson and Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Like, they've all played before. We've kind of seen those matches. We know that those are kind of the good or the better games. You bring in the guys like Notre Dame, who Notre Dame looks great all year and then gets blown out like 62-13 in the national championship game, and gets made fun of for the next decade. I know because I'm the one doing it. So teams like Penn State being in there, teams like Iowa being at 5. I would challenge you on Arkansas being at 5 because I think after this weekend they're going to drop down into the 20s. I mean, they're playing Georgia this weekend. That's going to really tell us who Arkansas is. I mean, Arkansas beating Texas A&M is big, but we already knew Texas A&M was struggling because they barely pulled out one against Colorado. So not too much there. They beat Texas, a highly overrated Texas team. Good on Arkansas. I'd never even heard of this head coach when they signed him. So the fact that this guy's coming in and brought Arkansas out of the dregs, out of the bottom of the barrel of the SEC to get them into a top 10 spot is huge. But, Iowa and Penn State are good, but one of them's going to knock themselves out. Alabama, Georgia, one of them's going to knock themselves out. Maybe this is the year that we get somebody like Cincinnati in there. I would like to see maybe a Cincinnati in the Big Four. That would be exciting. Even if Alabama loses to Georgia, getting some fresh blood from a different conference in would be nice. I know you're both shaking your head. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it would be nice to see something like that happen.
Well, let me put it this way. You bringing Cincinnati in the 4 isn't any worse than this bringing Coastal Carolina into the 4. Get the hell away from me, Coastal Carolina. Okay?
I still want UCF.
The data committee lets a non-power 5 in the top 4. Get away from me. It's not even. Why are we even mentioning that?
Well, because Cincinnati plays Notre Dame this weekend.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So if Cincinnati beats Notre Dame, all of a sudden they are now in the Big Four conversation. They absolutely are if they beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, underline that if part. But real quickly, talking about new teams in the 4. All right, look at who's 6. Oklahoma. I'm sorry, have we seen Oklahoma in the 4? Yeah. How'd that work out? Do I really want to see that again? The only team right now that is sort of lingering that I would be – you've got Florida in the top 10. If they got in the 4, would that be intriguing? Maybe. I don't know how invested I'd be in Florida. The one that does somewhat intrigue me, and this is a very long way because they're off to a good start doesn't mean that they're not going to just completely fall on their face like they do every year. But I'll give you this. Does Michigan finally get over the hump? Does Harbaugh finally have something? And Michigan has gotten their answers at quarterback, and now they find a way to get into the 4. Because Michigan in the 4, with Harbaugh alone, has me interested to see how it plays out. Not saying that it will end well, but at least it would be fresh, new, and intriguing.
It would be another big name school that we haven't yet seen at that level. So yeah, that would be of interest for sure. I don't necessarily know that Michigan's going to be able to pull that off. We already talked about Iowa and Penn State. I don't think that they're going to beat both of those teams to get there. I'm trying to think of other teams like Florida State early on. Would have been nice to see maybe Florida State in there. Somebody else in the ACC other than Clemson would have been cool. This year's too big of a toss-up to really throw any of those names out there yet. Nobody, like you said, it's Bama and everybody else. Georgia is really the only one, Georgia, Florida, and they'll play each other. That'll get itself sorted. So it's tough, but
it's really hard to start fleshing out who has a real shot at the 4 until around Halloween. I would say that's when you start getting into the midst of conference play. Some of these top 10 teams start playing each other and start kind of knocking each other out. So, give us another month and we'll have a lot clearer idea of who's realistically in a discussion for the 4. Right now, it's just teams that haven't tripped over each other yet. I think that's the biggest thing about what we've seen early on is that teams that you didn't expect to trip over each other have. Clemson's got 2 losses already. Nobody saw that coming. Ohio State's got a loss already. Ohio State's got to do a ton of heavy lifting just to get themselves back into the conversation. Clemson's officially out of the conversation as far as I'm concerned. The fact that they're ranked top 25 is a joke. So, we have to see more things happen. But the idea that there could potentially be some fresh blood and hopefully fresh blood that doesn't have history attached to it is something that I think a lot of people look forward to.
I do just want to point out in the chat, Sean said, let's do like a December Madness. Dude, I would love nothing more than to see like a big bracket style playoff for college football. But as some of the others in the chat have said, I don't think that's possible, dude. Like I don't think that they'll do it. It really just won't work.
We can't even get an agreement to go to 12, and you want to go bracket style?
Right. 12
Not
is technically a bracket now.
Not to mention, well, okay, fine, but here's the thing: there's always been the debate too: is 12 too much? Which it might be. I think like 8 would be a good number because if you go to 12, now you're getting outside the top 10. I mean, now you're just kind of diluting the playoff. I mean, now you're almost going like, what? You want an NFL style wild card team to all of a sudden make a run? I mean,
yes.
The thing about college football is that, regardless of whether your schedule is strong or not, every game does essentially matter. Okay, the zero in the loss column does matter most of the time. One loss, then all of a sudden leaves it up to debate and what the school is. So once you start getting out into bigger numbers, 8, 12, whatever, you're diluting the season. All of a sudden, losses don't matter.
I actually kind of agree with Sean. The top 10 with buys for 1 and 2. I've been thinking about that for a while. That would be, that's kind of an NFL style, the top 2 teams in the country.
If you were going to do a 10 team, why not do this? And Josh, since your school is a Big 5 school, I'm curious how you feel about this. You take the 5 conference winners from the Big 5. Okay, they're in. Then you go outside the Power 5 conferences and take 5 from there. And that's your 10. Because that at least gives the regular season meaning. So if you're in a Power 5 conference, you need to win your conference. I don't care if you're, the second best team in the SEC behind Alabama. If you didn't win, I'm sorry, you're not in. And now all these, people in our chat who want to clamor for these Power 5s, these non-Power 5 schools because they don't play anybody. Okay, great. Here's your chance because, when you win the Rose Bowl in against a bigger name school who doesn't get to play in the playoff and no longer cares. All right. Now it would actually carry a little bit of meaning and you'd see how they actually stack up.
So I do like that idea. I think the winners of each Power 5 and then 5 from outside the Power 5, like the mid-majors, that I support that fully. Here's one thing based on what I'm seeing in the chat here about, it's pushing the season into mid-January and it's going to make it much later. Here's how you fix that. 10-game conference-only schedules. So only playing teams within your conference. We're taking the best team from each conference, right? So if we're going to take the Power 5 schools, all in conference, no out-of-conference play, you are playing to be the best from your conference. You win your conference, you go on to the playoff. That doesn't really extend the season out too much. I mean, you're already looking at a 14-week season. Drop that down to 10 with a bye week before the playoff starts, or maybe like a bye week dabbled in there somewhere in your full conference schedule. That really makes that a little bit more feasible, and I like that a little bit more. We saw that in 2020. I mean, A&M kind of got screwed by that, but that's more exciting.
Not just that, but you talk about pushing it into late January. The title game's in mid-January anyway. We're talking about, another week or two? And it affects the combine? Oh, my God, not the combine. I'm sure the NFL couldn't adapt. Holy shit, what would we do?
You think the NCAA is going to complain? The NCAA is not going to complain about more college football, more revenue for them. They're not going to complain. They'll be fine with it.
More importantly, from a combine aspect, you think, taking your idea, teams actually playing in conference and getting more teams involved in the playoff from non-power, you don't think that would help guys draft stock even before combines?
Huge.
Come on, scout, use your head.
You didn't
All
do
right.
the quotes. You got to do the
We're
quotes.
shift gears just a little bit on NCAA football. So, 3 big games this weekend, in my eyes: Arkansas, Georgia, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, and Alabama, Ole Miss. Because you guys haven't touched on the Alabama Ole Miss game yet. So just
why would
just,
I?
Do I want to?
just for Dan's information, I was reading an article. They were talking to Desmond Ridder, the quarterback from Cincinnati, about the fact that Notre Dame is a loud stadium to play in, right? His reaction, and I quote, is, "It shouldn't be loud for too long." Meaning they're just going to come out there and destroy Notre Dame. I don't think he watched the game film from last week defensively, but we will get to that. Who do you think out of those 3 games would be has the biggest chance of an upset? I'm looking at Ole Miss actually maybe giving Alabama a run for the money. I think Arkansas can stay with Georgia, and I think Cincinnati, unfortunately, could beat Notre Dame. So I don't really have a lock-in for any of those for you, but what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, if you're just going off of the spreads, it's Cincinnati. I mean, you're talking about 2 games that are double-digit spreads against a game that's under a field goal. So if you're looking at upset possibility, it's that one. Now, okay, if you want to really go upset, because I don't know that, is Notre Dame beating Cincinnati because Notre Dame is the dog here? Is that an upset? I don't think it's an upset. So you got to look at the other 2 games. I don't think there is a snowball's chance in hell of Ole Miss beating Alabama. Okay? You got Lane over there on Twitter tweeting every 5 minutes, and Saban is just printing out each one and putting it on lockers. Okay? Alabama will be up 21 before you can sneeze. The question for Arkansas is, can they, because Georgia's offense had fun last week against a team that's meaningless and they scored a lot of points, but that's not Georgia's offense. Okay. Georgia's built on defense and, then scores what they need to score. Can Arkansas keep this tight? Okay. Like, can we get to halftime where this is a 1-possession game and it's ugly, low scoring, just muddied up football? Because if that's the case, then Arkansas has a very good chance of winning this game. If Georgia gets up 10, 14 points, good night. Arkansas has got to stay within arm's length, and they've got to muddy this game up, not let big plays happen. Not that Georgia's necessarily an explosive offense, but, when you look at the 2 offenses, Georgia clicks a lot more of the boxes than Arkansas does. So Arkansas's defense really has to step up and keep them in the game. So if you're going to make me pick between the 2, it's Arkansas, but I don't necessarily like either's chances of an upset.
Yeah, I think Alabama's like a 14.5 point, like they're plus 14.5, I think, in the game with Ole Miss. Here's the thing. If I haven't said this before, I'm saying it now. There has never been a coordinator in the Saban coaching tree that has beaten Alabama or beaten Saban as a head coach. It has not happened. Now, having said that, Lane Kiffin has come the closest. He almost beat them when he was the head coach at Tennessee. Ole Miss isn't a bad team. I get nervous whenever the Lane train starts coming around with a halfway decent team. The fact that he's back in the SEC and he has one of the better quarterbacks in the league right now against an Alabama defense that hasn't been executing the way Alabama's supposed to. I do agree with Dan where like every single thing that Lane is saying right now and is getting tweeted is definitely getting into that locker room, is fueling Saban. Saban hates to lose. He doesn't even like Kiffin. Like they don't have a very good relationship. So I hope that Alabama has that game as a blowout, but I think that game's going to be a lot closer than they're saying. I think the spread is at 79 for that game, so it's going to be high scoring. Like I really think it's going to be back and forth, kind of knock down, drag out. Whoever has the ball last might win that game, honestly. I I think Georgia's going to win pretty handily against Arkansas. I don't think that offense is going to keep pace with Georgia's defense. Georgia may struggle a little bit on offense early on, but I think that defense will carry them and they'll get kind of a comfortable lead after a while, and they'll just be able to coast at the end. As long as that defense stays stout and stays ready, I think we're fine. The closest game for me is that Notre Dame-Cincinnati game. And going back to what I said in the previous topic, if Cincinnati beats Notre Dame, they are a legitimate title contender at that point. I mean, Notre Dame is a team without a conference for many years that was making it in the playoffs. Cincinnati beats a team like Notre Dame and goes undefeated, they have to be in that contention. Now, I don't think Cincinnati wins that game. I really don't. I have to rib you guys because you're both Notre Dame fans. But Notre Dame, the way that they played against Wisconsin, really showed me a different level than what I had seen previously. I was not impressed with them up until that point. What they did to Wisconsin actually made me pay attention a little bit. I was like, oh, there's more to this team than I thought. Like, they actually know how to play the game. They know how to win bigger games. They know what they're doing. So I think that game could potentially be close. I think that'll be the upset just as Notre Dame is the dog right now. But I don't really see any of these games being too close. Maybe in the first half, they're all pretty close, but that second half is going to be runaway for all three favorites. Other than, well, Notre Dame will be the favorite by the second half, and they're going to run away with it.
Here's a note, a betting note. All right. It's no fun that Josh is already on the Notre Dame side here. I liked him more last week when he thought Wisconsin would win that game. Since 2010, as a home underdog, which Notre Dame is this week, they have covered the spread every game and won outright all of them. Okay? Desmond Ritter, run your mouth all you want, my friend. It only helps. Okay? And I'm surprised we haven't gotten the mouth running in the chat already because I figured since we're going to talk Notre Dame, he'd be chirping already. The thing that was shown most in the Wisconsin game is this is a really young Notre Dame team. It's a lot of freshmen and sophomores. We don't have junior and senior leadership like they've done on past teams. So this was kind of the, like that tweener year. Like they expected to be good next year, not this year. And they're so far doing well. The defense took over in the second half against Mertz, which I wasn't surprised about. But in the first half, when Wisconsin was just destroying that offensive line, which I wasn't surprised about because that offensive line is not great, you saw Cohen, who got sacked 5 times. Once he got hit a little bit, he started using his legs. And that's what kept Notre Dame in that game in the first half, was all of a sudden Cohen started using his legs and just moving chains. And while it's not, you look at his rushing stats and it says negative because of all the stats, and so there's nothing if you just look at the stats that points out you had to actually watch the game, which I'm sure some people on this did and didn't do. Cohen just moving the chains and keeping drives alive really helped Notre Dame stay in that game and then eventually take it over in the second half. Because what it did was it wore down the Wisconsin defense. Okay, and the more and more Mertz had to try and press, he came into trouble. And you can say what you want about Jack Cohen, okay, but any debate about the decision that Wisconsin made is settled, okay, because Cohen kept them in the game, and even though he went out, I would say Notre Dame was winning that game regardless if Cohen stayed in the game or didn't. I would say Mertz lost that game for Wisconsin. I would say there's no debate over who the better quarterback is and the decision that Wisconsin made. As far as this week, Desmond Ritter has a lot of hype around him, but he still hasn't shown much. I would say if he wants to get the Heisman hype to the level it needs to be, this is your week, boy. Do it in South Bend. Say there's no better way to get the Heisman hype around you, but good luck. Because it ain't going to happen. I don't need the points. Notre Dame money line. I told you last week Notre Dame money line. It's Notre Dame money line this week.
Good. Yeah, the thing about it, though, is like every week Notre Dame, if Notre Dame loses, Cincinnati is an amazing top 4 level team. If Notre Dame wins this week, it's Cincinnati wasn't as good as they were supposed to be. But we'll move on from that. That's the same thing. It's like being a Cowboys fan, but in the NFL, in college. All right, so shifting gears completely, we're going to go ahead and head over to the UFC and get a recap from last weekend. So, what did you guys see last weekend from the UFC?
Well, hold on. Before we start, I would say we have to do full disclaimer. Me and Josh are talking back and forth while we're watching this, which I think we've brought it up on the show before. The original idea for the first show was me and Josh doing a watch along on a UFC card and doing this. Us talking during that UFC card is the exact reason why why one of our shows is going to be that. I would say just the dialogue between us for one of these fights. Yeah, I would say that it was talking to Josh was almost more amusing than actually watching the card.
It's a true story. We should have done it in our group chat because I was just going off. And I was just trolling the entire time. That was the best part. The fact that people are saying that the main event of that fight, which was, for those of you that don't know, was Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega in the main event for the 145-pound title. Volkanovski won that fight pretty handily. I had it in my actual card. I had it 4-1. I told Dan it was 4-1 Ortega. Just because I was trying to be like, no, man, he's getting takedowns. He's going for submission attempts. He's the one controlling the pace. He's the one controlling this fight, even though he's taking a beating on the ground. Like, it's fine. Like, I was just messing with him the whole time. But that was actually a really good fight, and this is kind of what we've come to know of a Brian Ortega fight. Brian Ortega, even when he's getting his ass handed to him, is never out of it, and he will always try and pull something. For those of you that watch like MMA-style movies, Warrior was one that came out a few years ago with Tom Hardy. The main character in that story would get his ass beat pretty much every single fight and would somehow come back with a submission at the end and find a way to win. It's very much Brian Ortega-esque in that sense. The fight card as a whole wasn't anything special. The co-main event was a snoozer. I literally told Dan that I was going to go make a sandwich and have him call me when, I can't even remember her name right now. That's how forgettable she is. But I was like, just call me when she decides to throw a punch. Like, there was no action in this fight, and it's really sad because Valentina Shevchenko is such an amazing fighter. She has so much talent. She's so good at everything that she does. Her only real losses are to Amanda Nunes, and to watch her come out there and put on a show against a fighter who's just not anywhere near her level. And I think she was like 4th or 5th in the division. So it wasn't even like a true contender. It was kind of a letdown. The best fight of the night was the fight that I didn't even think should happen, and that was Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler. Like, Nick Diaz hasn't fought in 5 years, had no reason to come back and fight again. He even said it himself that he didn't really want to fight again. He had Nate, who made all the money, and Nick was good with that. And then after the fight, so he gets beat up on, and he gets taken out in the 3rd round. And when he gets interviewed by Daniel Cormier, which, by the way, I'm going to talk about the commentators in a second just because it's really frustrating me. But Daniel Cormier goes and talks to him, and he goes, yeah, I had that one coming. Like, I knew this was going to happen. I had this coming. That's because they fought each other once about 10 years ago, and Diaz knocked out Lawler with a check right hook, which was the same thing that Lawler then knocked Diaz out with, was a check right hook. So I feel like he just went in there, got an opponent that he was comfortable with, knew that he could kind of put on a show, not look horrible doing it, but also, like, this was the UFC's version of a Legends fight. We don't really much care about these types of fights. Robbie Lawler's on the back end of his career. Diaz never should have even been there. Looked decent. He was putting in punches. He was landing. He was accurate. So it was a good fight. Probably the best fight on the card, but didn't really need to happen. So the card in and of itself was fine, but the bigger MMA news is the stuff that happened. What was it, directly before?
No,
Friday
after.
night, Saturday. Oh, after. Okay, that's the real
All right,
news.
all right. So first off, just quickly getting through the card. First off, it was amazing to see Nick Diaz be as good as he was with a Homer Simpson body. I mean, that was amazing. The girl you can't remember is Lauren Murphy, who
Thank
for
you.
a woman who's coming in trying to beat a champion, typically as the challenger, you need to hit the champion to win a title. I'm not sure she understood that. She liked to throw punches. She was more of the punching bag. Me and Josh had the discussion about, Shevchenko is like the overwhelming dominant force in the women's division. She is, the equivalent of Ronda Rousey before Holly Holm showed up. And me and Josh are having the conversation about what fight gets you interested in watching her at this point, because there are really no challengers. And Josh's whole thing is Pena, but we've seen that fight already. So
Nunez.
Nunez,
not
sorry,
Pena.
yeah, not Pena, Nunez. But we've seen it. That fight's already happened. So I mean, unless you're in the Josh camp that believes Nunez won, not sure. The biggest thing about the Ortega fight was the first time Ortega gets Volkanovski in the submission. If that's anybody else, he taps. The amount of time he spends in that submission, which is locked tight as can be, to then eventually get out and continue the fight was amazing. And then the second time Ortega tries to get him in, I don't think Ortega had much left, which is why he was able to get out. But yeah, I mean, there's always the one fight on the card that kind of makes it worth watching, but as a whole, the card, like most UFC cards lately, was blah. As Josh alluded to, yeah, the bigger news and the thing that always grabs the headlines was what came after.
Yeah, real quick before I talk about that, I just want to give you a couple names here for the women's 125-pound division. And I believe that Shevchenko won at least one of those two fights previously. It was a split decision, so it could have gone either way, and I was on her side. That's why I'm okay with the third fight. Here's like the top 10. I'm just going to run through these quick. Jessica Andrade is technically the number one contender at 125. They've already fought. She's lost to Valentina recently. Caitlin Chookagian lost to Jessica Andrade, but she's number 3, 16-4 overall. Not a good fight. We've seen her get beat on already. Jennifer Maia, 19-7, lost to Shevchenko recently, so that's out. Lauren Murphy doesn't know how to punch. She's out. Alexa Grasso would probably be the next biggest one, but she hasn't really fought anybody. She lost to Carla Esparza, but beat Macy Barber. Macy Barber is a good up-and-comer. Ncaa Football just lost to Jessica Andrade on the same card. Not even worth being in contention right now. Joanne Calderwood's old as fuck, and lost to Lauren Murphy, so that tells me where she is. Jessica I has lost to Joanne Calderwood and Ncaa Football. She's at 9. She's nowhere near a title fight. Vivian Arajau has lost to Caitlin Chookagian. She's beat Montana De La Rosa and Roxanne Modafferi, but they're both top 15. So in the top 10 right now, she has one fight, and it's not anything that's even exciting. Nunez, if Nunez gets past Pena, Nunez doesn't have an exciting fight. You're going to see Shevchenko and Nunez fight again just for a payout, and then I think whichever one of them loses, most likely Shevchenko again. Shevchenko will – actually, they might both retire at that point. Nunez can walk away, retire as a double champ. Valentina will walk away as 125's most dominant ever, and then we'll get some new blood like a Macy Barber, Montana De La Rosa come up. That'll be around for a while. But yeah, the big news. If you want to lead us off, Dan, I would love to get your thoughts before I go off on this guy.
Well, we're both going off on him. Matt, go ahead. You can give the headway into this.
Yeah. All right, so it's already been in the chat. I think it's pretty funny.
Here, we'll put this one up.
That is the headline. I'm going to give Jeff that headline. I'm really that was pretty much what my headline was going to be. Jon Jones gets arrested again for the, I don't know, 7,000th time for
6.
doing Jon Jones things. So go ahead, guys, get on that one.
I mean, I feel like it was just a few episodes ago when I was asking Josh when Jon Jones was going to pop up again. Because Jon Jones is wonderful at running his mouth, but he's never wonderful at getting in the octagon and not getting popped for something. So because he can't get in the octagon, apparently he decided he was going to make an octagon out of his house and beat the crap out of his girlfriend or wife or whoever the hell it is. Okay? Jon Jones is a walking piece of crap. He has been for years. He is the most overrated MMA fighter in history. Okay? Yeah, you're going to give me the look. Here's where I'm going down the list. Okay? I don't care that he has 11 title defenses and blah, 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 blah. Okay? I can't – his biggest thing is the fights with Cormier, right? That's like the peak Jon Jones. You keep giving me the look, okay? But
I don't think you're right. But continue.
Who else did he have multiple fights with?
Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson put him on a stretcher. Jon Jones left that fight on a stretcher. That's peak Jon Jones, not the Cormier.
That was the
Jones.
first fight. The second fight was not close.
No.
But my thing is how can I call you the greatest of anything when every time you have a fight, it comes out 2 days later that we can't even call it a contest because you get popped for something? All right, this is the same guy. What 5-6 years ago when he was in Philly, okay, he almost got kicked off the card because he had a hit and run and he left the damn scene. I mean, this isn't new for Jon Jones. Jon Jones has been walking scum for years, okay? In typical sports fashion, it was Jon Jones was top of the card and winning, so they put up with it. But guess what? At some point, Jon Jones got like, who do I want to use? Ray Rice.
Ray Rice, yeah.
Ray Rice.
All right? Like at some point, your behavior supersedes your talent, okay? And then this guy has the audacity to go, I'm not getting in the octagon unless I get X amount of money. Dude, you can't even get in the octagon and have it count. What do I give a shit how much money you want? And what, you want Brock Lesnar? First off, they can't pull Brock back into the octagon. And second off, I would love for that to happen. I would love for it to happen because I would love for Brock to snap his leg in two. Okay? And I know Jones is smart enough to keep distance and it wouldn't happen. But just for once, let Jones be arrogant enough to try and get in close to Brock and let Brock snap him in half like the man-child that he is.
So you want to talk about...
I just want to get this really quick. Josh Gordon did just get reinstated, by the way. So
yeah, I was like, you can't be Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon's come back like he's got more lives than a cat.
Josh Gordon's not violent, though.
No, he smokes a lot of weed, but he's not violent.
I would say Josh Gordon is Marshawn Lynch 2.0. Or even Ricky Williams is probably a better one.
Yeah, Ricky Williams, yeah.
Ricky Williams, for sure. Ricky Williams started that. So, that's the OG. Go ahead, John.
No, I find it really interesting that you call Jon Jones the most overrated fighter in UFC. Because you brought up the most overrated fighter directly after, and that's Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is the most overrated fighter in UFC history, by far. Brock Lesnar only got away with what Brock Lesnar got away with because of who he had to fight at the time that he was in the UFC. And Prince fucking Goro is not coming back to the UFC to fight Jon Jones now with his little fucking top knot and goddamn beard. Like, stupid. Anyways. I want to shine a little bit of light on these extra details with the Jon Jones thing because they have come out. So it was a domestic violence and a vehicle tampering is what he was charged with. The domestic violence was he had a woman in his room in the hotel he was staying at in Vegas, and he pulled her hair to prevent her from leaving the room. That was the domestic. So he didn't actually hit a woman. Allegedly, because she when the cops did arrive, she had she had some blood on her lip and on her t-shirt, but she said that her lips were just chapped, and that's what that was from. So I'm pretty sure he actually did hit her, but there was no charges on that. So the only charges were for the hair pulling. And then the man headbutts a police car after he's been cuffed. So he just slammed his head on the hood of the police vehicle, and they got him with vehicle tampering, which is a felony. So in a lot of ways, this is blown out of proportion. Like, this isn't the worst thing we've ever seen Jon Jones do. This isn't shocking. This isn't something that we wouldn't expect Jon Jones to do. Honestly, his first accusation is the worst one: a hit and run on a pregnant woman in Albuquerque with weed in his fucking car. You know, that's the worst one. So, like, it really hasn't gotten any better since then, but it really hasn't gotten worse. There is a pattern, though, and I think we can start to tell when these things are going to happen. Because pretty much whenever Jon Jones starts tweeting these days, whenever he goes on Twitter and starts calling people out or posting images about, I want to fight, I want this, I want that, that's when the drama starts again. Because I remember last time, a couple months ago, he was talking about, I'm going to bulk up to get to heavyweight. And he had some minor incident with the police again there. I don't know if he just needs to move out of Arizona, or not Arizona, sorry, Albuquerque. Like, New Mexico is just not the place for him. Maybe he can go spend some time with his brother in Phoenix. Like, maybe he can kind of get his mind right a little bit. The UFC can't cut this guy, though. They really can't. And the only reason I say that they can't cut him is because the moment that they cut him and they allow him to go fight elsewhere, it's just going to get worse. And, like, he's going to go give some other promotion money that's not really deserved, and he's going to continue to talk shit about UFC. Like, yeah, if the UFC would have kept me, if I would have got these fights and got this money, I would have been the best to ever do it without a doubt. You never would have been able to question me. So the UFC's got it. Dana's got to keep him and hold him to that contract, and then just be like, nah, I'm going to make you retire because you're too much of a fuck up. Like, that's what Dana is going to do. Probably he's not going to pay him $20 million for a fight. It's not going to happen.
I can't agree with this, because I feel like, you know, like you said, right? First off, when we're sitting here and we have to rank where your latest incident falls in your incident list, that's where we know it's too many. All right, that's number one. Number two, okay, I think you just backed up what I said before. Okay, when he tweets, there's an incident. Because he wants to get in an octagon, and Dana's going, stop running your mouth because I'm not putting you in one. And then he goes and makes whatever room he's in into the latest octagon. But Jones, I think, and this is why Dana isn't, you know, doing his damnedest to get him in a fight. I mean, he's kryptonite at this point. You can't touch him. Okay? Even if you want to put all the incidents aside, okay, because like you said, all right, if you look deep into them, they're not the worst things in the world, at least not lately. You know, he headbutted a police car, okay? So does every other crackhead in America. You know, not the worst thing in the world. But when you want to tack incidents on top of a guy that, if I have a fight, if I put him on my card and he fights, I got to hold my breath for 72 hours and hope that he clears the drug test. Like, what do you do with that?
You don't do anything with that. I mean, Dana
that's
went
my
above and
point.
beyond.
I mean, I get that the Bellators and whatever else of the world are desperate, but I don't even think they're that desperate. I mean, because there's no liability on Jon. Okay, if Jon goes somewhere else and screws up, it doesn't matter. We just go up. There's Jon again. All the liability is on the promotion, so nobody can touch him. He's useless at this point.
Yeah. No, and he should be useless at this point. I feel like Dana needs to hold on to that contract and just like be like, here's the fights I'm offering you. This is what your contract is. This is what we're doing. If you're not going to fight, you're not going to fight. Eventually, John is going to bend, and he's going to continue on this self-destructive path, and it's going to get worse and worse to the point where, like right now, the Bellators and stuff are still desperate enough to keep him, but it'll get to the point where they won't want anything to do with him anymore. Last time he came back off of a major break was against Ovince St. Preux, and he looked like absolute trash in that fight. Granted, he was focusing a lot on his like heavy lifting and stuff in that fight, but he's doing the same thing to bulk up to 265 to go fight the winner of Ngannou versus Cyril Gane. That will never happen, and if that's his strategy, that's not going to work. And it's not like Jackson Wink is the gym and coach with strategy and everything that they used to be, because everybody's getting the brakes beat off of them that's coming out of there recently. So you have to just kind of take it all with that grain of salt. But John's going to be held out long enough by Dana to where John looks really bad, and he's probably going to get beat. He's going to get a fight probably 2 years, if for some miracle he can stay out of trouble for that long. I give it about 2 years. Go ahead.
John's got a better chance of bending over in prison than he does bending over for Dana.
No, he doesn't. He'll need money eventually, and Uncle Dana will be waiting.
Uncle Dana will give him pennies by the time it comes down to that.
Yeah, that's what he fucking deserves. He just doesn't know it yet.
He deserves to be on the corner homeless. That's what he deserves.
Well, he won't, because his brother will pay for him for a while.
No, yeah, forget about the brother. God forbid.
Brothers.
All right,
sorry.
Move on.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving on. Oh, Dan, you had some good lines in that one, though. That was pretty funny, dude. So does every crackhead.
Just saying. Okay, tell me what crackhead in America hasn't been arrested and headbutt the cop car.
Every single one of
them. Every cop's episode of all time has that.
Yes. And it's always that guy who used to be a fighter and is now a crackhead. All right, so we're going to move on
to Jon Jones camp.
Exactly. Crackhead fighting. Used to be bum fights, now we can make it crackhead fights.
Yes. Crackhead Fight League. Start it.
Get that going, Jeff. I know you can do that. All right, so
Matt, not to cut you off real quickly. Josh, did you see the Kimbo Slice reference for overrated fighters?
I did. I saw it.
No, I'm going to find it right now, though.
I don't know how cool it is. I was going to say. I'm just saying, I don't know how cool it is to bring the dead into this conversation, but
I mean, that's kind of mean, but
hey, without Kimbo, we wouldn't have a Jorge Masvidal. So
Kimbo is like on the level of Harambe. We just don't go there.
Yeah.
They killed Kimbo and Harambe, man.
That's kind of fucking racist, dude. Just compared a black man to a gorilla. That's fucked up.
I wasn't really going down that road.
That is a little fucked up.
You guys really made a right turn on that. That wasn't the distinction I was going for, but
hey, man, just went right into it. Like shit.
Alrighty then. Moving on.
Moving on.
Let's get back to that move on part.
All right, let's go with Major League Baseball. Getting really close to October. The races are coming along. Are there any surprises out there? And who do you think is gonna? Who do you think are the top two American League teams and top two National League teams when it comes to looking at World Series?
Well, I can tell you this much: it's not me or Josh's team. We can.
Oh, I know it's not the Mets.
And that right there. So if the postseason ended today, the National League play-in game would be Dodgers, Cardinals. The AL would be Yankees, Red Sox. Then you would have on the AL side the Rays, the Astros, the White Sox. On the NL side, Braves, Brewers, Giants. Giants just lost Brandon Belt for the foreseeable future for about a month. He fractured his thumb. The Brewers just lost their reliever Devin Williams because he's an idiot and punched a wall and fractured his hand and he needs surgery, so he's out for the postseason. Just the logic of these guys is wonderful. But there are things still up in the air. When a couple of weeks ago when we did the preview and looked at the last couple of weeks for these teams, Josh, you'll remember I said, look out for the Mariners, because if the Mariners made a run, they would be in this. And what do you know? The Mariners have won 9 out of 10, and they came in tonight a half game back of Boston for the second wild card. All right. Oakland is out. As soon as they started that series, as soon as Seattle won the first game, Oakland's chances of the postseason are done. I mean, Oakland last night basically started going in their bullpen after the third inning for whatever reason. So if Seattle continues to take care of business, they get the Angels for that last series. All right. Yankees and Blue Jays are playing each other now. The Red Sox already faltered and lost to the Orioles last night. The Red Sox should have had it easy. They've got the Red Sox and the Nationals to finish this out. They should be cakewalking into the postseason, and they stumbled with Sale on the mound last night against the Orioles. The Mariners are the team that I'm watching. I told you to keep an eye out for the Mariners. They're playing the best ball maybe of anybody outside of the Yankees right now. They're the team I think that gets in, especially if the Red Sox don't get their act together right now.
What are they? I think they're 17-8 in September. Like as the month goes, just a ridiculous amount of wins this month. So they've really put it on. It's nice to see Seattle. I like Seattle a lot. I would say right now, if I had to pick a team in the American League, I'm not going to give it to the Astros just because nothing should ever be given to the Astros.
If you're making me pick a team in the AL, it's the Astros.
Nope, can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I will fight. I'll fight for Tampa Bay.
Whenever you want to go down that rabbit hole, let's do it.
Well, we should probably talk about the National League first, unless we just want to burn down the Astros now. But since we're talking about dumpster fire organizations, let's talk about the Mets being in the lead for 130 games and then just shit in the bed, man. And you got Thor back, which is great for the end of the season. But hey, he's back. Okay, an inning's an inning. It's a live game and it counts. He's back.
Wonderful.
I mean, you're a victim of your own circumstances with your injuries this year. So I mean, you've kind of paid the price for it.
I mean, Thor coming back was as useful as Luis Rojas coming out and telling me that Jacob deGrom was shut down for the year. I knew that 4 months ago. And then he goes, oh, well, if the games against Atlanta were meaningful, he would have pitched. Dude, the games haven't been meaningful for the last 3 months. And this is why you can't be my manager. This is why you need to go far, far, far away. Again, I feel like every week we come on here and somebody wants to make reference to the Mets, and I'm going to give you the same 2 words I give you every week. Theo Epstein. That's all I give a shit about. Okay? Let me know when Theo's here. That's all I care about.
I mean, your 2 words should be Pete Alonso, because that's really the only thing you should be proud of ever with that organization.
Pete's there. He's fine. I'm not worried about Pete. Okay, I've got that glob of shit Robinson Cano still hovering over my head. He's coming back next year. Hopefully, Cohen uses his billions of dollars and just buys him to go away. I've got Lindor for the next 10 years, so that's just wonderful. Looking at the product on the field, first off, can we get a goddamn medical team? Just somebody to keep these guys fucking healthy, because the Mets are never healthy. Never. Just not, it doesn't happen. So that's number 1. And then number 2, can I get a real third baseman? Not the JD Davises of the world. Because they didn't want to wait on JT Realmuto, who, by the way, is the best catcher in baseball. They didn't want to wait on him. So instead they paid James fucking McCann, who's a backup. Wonderful. Worked out perfectly. He had a walk-off hit last night, which went about 5 fucking feet. The only reason why it was a walk-off is because the pitcher couldn't handle it. Wonderful. That is James McCann's season in a fucking nutshell.
I just want to leave. Well, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I've got Pete Alonso, I've got Jacob deGrom if healthy. That's what I've got. That's the only two things I can wrap my arms around. That's why I need Theo. Theo is the breaker of curses. Whatever bad shit has hovered around this organization, Theo will just wipe it away.
So I'm going to give you a different two words for the Mets, okay? And I think this is really at the center of your problem. And these two words are thumbs down.
Why? You want to get me started on Javier Baez? I can go down that fucking road.
No,
right.
I just.
I'm pretty sure I already did the Baez rant on this show.
You did.
All right, the guy was there for 2 fucking minutes, got no hits for like 3 weeks, and then got pissed off because he got booed. Boo fucking who?
I mean, yeah, I just love to hear you rant about the Mets. And since you brought up two words, thumbs down was perfect.
Josh, here's the only good thing that happened the entire Mets year. The only good thing. Trevor Bauer was enough of a dick to tell them no. Because can you imagine, with all the shit that happened to the Mets this year, between Mickey Callaway and Jared Porter and freaking, and Zach Scott and just every, misogynistic organizational thing that could possibly happen, if Trevor Bauer had actually been there, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like if an MLB team could have got relegated, it would have been the Mets, just on behavior.
No, I think it would have been the Twins still. We're way worse, bro. We have more talent, the healthy talent right now than you do, and we're still a worse baseball team. So don't feel too bad.
And for the 400th fucking time, because people cling to this when we talk about the Mets, every goddamn team has a Bobby Bonilla contract now. All right? It's not funny anymore. Okay? I'm perfectly fine with having Bobby Bonilla Day and giving him one of them like lottery checks every year and he can throw out the first pitch. I don't give a shit. All right? Max Scherzer's going to get paid till he's 85. I don't care. Whoop-de-fucking do.
Would you give Theo Epstein a Bobby Bonilla contract?
I'll give Theo Epstein whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh, I bet you will.
I bet you will.
Seriously, whatever.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna tweet him.
Tweet him out. Give him whatever.
See if he likes to pull hair like Jon Jones.
But anyway,
you pull your hair for you.
we've really gotten off the fucking rails on this show tonight, haven't we?
Yeah, it's getting bad today. Jesus Christ. All right.
All righty.
All right.
Oh.
I'll attempt to steer us back since the host isn't doing any fucking damage. Best team in the NL is still the Dodgers, despite the fact that they're probably going to have to play in the play-in game. Because assuming that the Cardinals already have locked in the second wild card. The Giants, still have to win a couple of games before they lock up the division. So the Giants or the Dodgers aren't technically eliminated yet, but they're probably not going to get the division. So you'll get Dodgers Cardinals in a 1-game playoff. So you get Scherzer likely against what? Wainwright, Flaherty, whoever they decide to go to. Like, is anybody going to side with the Cardinals in that situation? I understand the Cardinals have sold their souls. The Cardinals are just never going to be bad. Doesn't matter what the situation is. They're always going to end up in the postseason somehow. All right, that apparently is how this works now. But I don't see any way they get through. Scherzer in 1 game. Okay, outside of a Kenley Jansen meltdown in the 9th, I don't see it. And then, the Dodgers go about their business, get in a divisional series, against the Giants. And then what? They'll go Buehler, they'll go Urias. You can bring Scherzer back. Like, I don't have any issues with the Dodgers still navigating through this. I'm not concerned about the Brewers. I mean, the Brewers offense goes to sleep 5 out of 7 days in the year. I mean, they rely on the Burns and Woodruffs to keep the other team off the board. All right. And I know he's not in the chat, so he'll talk all this crap elsewhere, but I am not concerned about the Braves in the playoffs one bit. When's the last time I've seen the Braves win a meaningful goddamn playoff series?
91.
Yeah, VHS tapes. Okay, so no, I'm not worried about the Braves. All right, like I said, the Brandon Belt thing is a big issue for the Giants. I think that really hurts a Giant offense that, has exceeded expectations anyway. I think the Cardinals would have had a better chance had they managed to get the division, didn't have a one-game playoff. But there's nothing for me that in the NL says the Dodgers still can't navigate their way through. All right. Oh, somebody brought up Arenado. Arenado's been like the third best player on the Cardinals this year. Goldschmidt has carried that team more than Arenado. I don't want to hear about Arenado.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I agree. I think the Dodgers are the best team in the National League. So, yeah, I don't really have anything to challenge there. I'm not going to speak anymore about the team in the American League.
No, we're going to go down that rabbit hole shortly, Josh. So you're not getting away from that one. We're going to go down that rabbit hole shortly.
God. Yeah, go ahead.
I need
to
respond. I need to respond to this comment about, do you think Scherzer would allow Dave Roberts to make a call to pull Scherzer out early? First of all, Dave Roberts isn't Kevin Cash, and Scherzer isn't the bitch that Blake Snell is. There's your answer.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true.
True.
All right, how's Blake Snell working out in San Diego, by the way? All right. So let's go to the AL. Josh, let's go down the rabbit hole. Okay? Because here, before you say anything, here's what I'm going to say to you. You're going to sit here and you're going to bash the Astros, right? And and we're going to talk about buzzers and shirts and trash cans and everything else. And I'm going to tell you, okay, and I'll let you go down your whole thing and then I'll explain why. But I'm going to tell you, you're angry at the wrong fucking people.
No, I'm angry at those people too. Trust me. I know who you're going to say I should be mad at, and they deserve it just as much. However,
they deserve it more.
No, yes, more and less at the same time. I feel like we should still be hitting Astros batters. Is it just me? I feel like they still deserve to get beamed at least once a game. Because hopefully that would just shorten their careers enough so I don't have to fucking look at them anymore. No, the Astros, for me, as good as they are, cheating or not, they didn't get the punishment that they deserve. So I will not acknowledge them as a contender. Even if they win it, I'm just going to treat it like a COVID vaccine. It's not real, and it's probably fake, and the government just wants me to take it, but it's not what actually happened. So I'm just going to play by those guidelines when it comes to the Astros. Yeah, unless Rob Manfred in the Major League Baseball decides to take serious action against that team, not just your Carlos Beltran and a couple other guys that lost their jobs because of this. The players didn't really get punished at all, other than by pitchers from opposing teams trying to take out a little bit of vengeance. I'm not going to recognize them as a contender. I'm not really going to even recognize them as a team. They're just some guys that exist to piss me off in Major League Baseball. And they're what's wrong with Major League Baseball other than the higher-ups at this point. So if I'm going to talk about American League teams, I'm going to go ahead and say Seattle's the team to watch. Chicago's probably going to make a good run. And then Toronto. Toronto's going to be exciting to watch.
Toronto's not even going to get in.
Are they not? Are they out that far now?
They would
need a chance to get in.
They have a chance to get in. They need to take the next two from the Yankees. I don't know what the score is tonight. Hold on, let me look real quick. Let's see. They're currently beating the Yankees 5-3, top of the seventh, which if they hold on, is good. I mean, it was Berrios versus Cole tonight in a game that, when you look at the pitching matchup, you would think that it was advantage Yankees, but 5-3, top of seven, so that would be good. for them to hold on. Red Sox also currently have a 3-0 lead over the Orioles, and I asked, where was this last night? But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
No, really, that's all I have there. Hopefully, Astros get knocked out first round. Nothing would make me happier than that. They are a good team. They have a lot of talent, but they're not a real team to me because they're still allowed to play. A lot of these guys should have gotten bans. We've banned people for less, honestly, and they're still here. So.
I don't disagree with anything you said, but here's why I'm going to tell you why your anger is completely wrong. All right, first off, Astros have played a full 162 here this year. Okay, we're not going to talk about the Dodgers championship last year, which was, 80 games or whatever. All right, they've played a full 162, and here they are winning the division again with no buzzers or anything, the trash cans to our knowledge. Okay, that's number one. Number two, all the players that were in an uproar about, they did this and this should have happened and blah, 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 blah. Joe Kelly's the only one who did anything. Okay, so if you had a problem, like you said, you could have did something about it. All right, I get last year why nobody wanted to do it. The truncated season, the suspension is a good chunk of the year. You don't want to lose that. But this year, first series you had them, you could have taken a 5-game suspension for throwing, gotten your flesh and moved on. Nobody did it. Okay, and Rob Manfred created this problem when he said that compliance was more important than penalty. Okay? Because, like you said, what happened? What happened? All right, Carlos Beltran was Mets manager for 5 minutes. Okay, who knows what good that did. All right, Alex Cora lost a year. The Astros manager, whose name all of a sudden I'm blanking on, lost a year. They're already back at their jobs, and both teams are in playoff contention. So who cares? Okay? Rob Manfred was so concerned about getting the truth that he basically gave the players a blanket. And why did he give the players a blanket? Because he could have gotten the truth. He had enough whistleblowers. He had enough guys like Mike Fayers and other guys that had gone elsewhere where he could have gotten all the information he needed. Okay? But what did Rob Manfred want to avoid? Rob Manfred wanted to avoid a Black Sox type situation. He didn't want this team with this huge controversy and this effect on, postseason games and World Series games even, okay? And then having to basically take out half a roster, all right? And all the trickle down and the black eye it would have on the league and all this thing, okay? The Black Sox scandal is a big deal, okay? And people know the Black Sox scandal because it was a big deal, but it's 100 years ago, and people will tell you about the Black Sox, but unless they watched 8 Men Out, they probably don't know what the hell the Black Sox are. All right, this is something that in the Twitter and social media world would never go away. And Rob Manfred said, you know what? Instead of me putting a giant black eye on the league, I will give you guys the security blanket. So you want to get angry? I agree, get angry. But I'm not getting angry at the players. All right? I didn't expect the players to go, you know what? Take the blanket away. I'll tell you what you want and give me the penalty I deserve. No, Rob Manfred created this. Like he creates every other crap that MLB is. This is a guy that called the World Series trophy a piece of metal. Okay? So Rob Manfred is the worst commissioner in sports. He's worse than Goodell. He's worse than Bettman. And it ain't close. So you want your anger? That's who you pointed to. That schmuck.
Schmuck. I love that word.
Somehow we always find a way to get Rob Manfred in the conversation.
Always. It's an every week thing.
Yep.
Every week.
By the way, Rob, just another thing that you might want to be at the front of your mind. You've got 2 months till the CBA runs out. You talking about that at all? Just anything? Okay.
No, he cares too much about his 14-team playoff.
Yeah. He does. All right, so real quick, let's get into your locks and bets for the week. Give me your NFL locks, Dan.
Okay, so before I give you the lock of the week, I want to point out one game here real quick as soon as I can get it to pop up. Where the hell is it? There we go. All right. Everybody's going to look at the Lions and Bears this week. All right. You're going to see the Lions getting 3 points. And you're going to see how bad the Bears were last week and how the Lions basically almost beat the Ravens outside of a Justin Tucker miracle. And you go, take the Lions with 3. Hell, take the Lions money line. Lions are winning this week. Not so fast. Not so fast. Because as of right now, we have no idea who's quarterbacking for the Bears. Matt Nagy said all 3 guys, including Nick Foles, is on the table. But remember, the plan was never to put Justin Fields in that game last week. That came out of necessity. That was feeding Justin Fields to the wolves. Okay? I don't know what anybody expected from Justin Fields going up against the Browns defense. Okay? I mean, if you look into their deeper analytics, despite as bad as he was, he actually did better than the expected things were based on the situations. All right? That's how bad of a situation he was in. This Lions team has been better than expected, but they're still bad. And if it is Fields under center, this could be a get-right situation for Justin Fields. I'm not saying it is out of the realm of possibility for the Lions to win this game. I'm just saying it is not the sure thing that is jumping out at people as a deadlock underdog of the week, like the Bengals were last week, or like the Chargers were, which we gave both of you on this show, by the way, just saying. But so I would just calm down on that. Now, Josh, as you know from my lock of the week, it's normally about 3 teams. All right, we don't go very large on these parlays. We're going big this week. All right, we're expanding the lock. 6-team lock of the week. Okay, now remember, our locks are always money line. All right, so that's why we're calling this locks. All right, 6 teams. Ready? Chiefs are beating the Eagles. Don't have to worry about that. Titans are beating the Jets. Don't have to worry about that. Saints are beating the Giants. Don't have to worry about that. Packers are beating the Steelers. Don't have to worry about that. Bucks are beating the Patriots. Don't have to worry about that. And Bills are beating the Texans. That is a 6-leg parlay that right now would pay you 3.5 to 1. That is your lock of the week.
TJ Watt still out?
Yes.
I don't think it matters.
I think it does. But if he's out, yeah, I like that then. I have 2 more when it comes to the NFL. And this is, well, they're not quite as good as yours, but I think that they're pretty easy covers either way. Ravens +1 right now against Denver. Denver's 3-0. They look solid, but again, when your games are against the Jets and the Jaguars, it's really hard to tell if you're a good team or if you're just kind of benefiting from an early, easy schedule, kind of like the Panthers are. But I actually like that Ravens-Denver line. I think the Ravens do pull that one out. And just a quick note on the Detroit-Chicago game. We did see that Detroit was able to manage Lamar Jackson pretty well with his running and scrambling. He wasn't as mobile as we've seen him previously. Could be a benefit to help them keep it close with Fields for a while. But Fields can actually throw, unlike Lamar. So I think that negates it out. I think Chicago wins that one pretty easy. The other one I have here is Raiders +3.5 against the Chargers. I think the Raiders can win this game. I really do. I think that the Chargers are coming off that big win against a Chiefs team that's been struggling, but I think the Raiders have that momentum, and I think they're really going to take it to the Chargers. We're going to see if the Chargers are that good team that you think they are. But I like them +3.5. I think that's a good line. I think it's fair. I think it's probably, if I remember looking correctly, I think the Chargers are getting closer to being a betting favorite right now, or they have the plus money right now. So, or I'm sorry, the minus money right now, even though it's +3.5. I still like He's a lock fool. Yeah, whatever. I do like the Raiders plus 3.5, and I like the Ravens plus 1 as far as NFL goes. That's my two big ones. I also have the Chicago Detroit game too.
The other thing I'll point out as far as NFL real quick before we go to college. This is for you, Maddie. I like your team this week. Only giving a point to the Falcons. I think that line is a real big over adjustment based on last week. Falcons obviously getting the win against my Giants and Washington getting destroyed by Buffalo. Atlanta is not Buffalo. Okay. And, we've seen Heineke be able to move the ball when he's had time. I mean, he was just swarmed last week. I mean, every bad decision he could make, he made. I think he'll have a better situation against an Atlanta defense. And I also think for as bad as the Washington defense has been, this is a get-right week for them. Okay. I mean, Matt Ryan doesn't exactly move around the pocket real well. Okay. If you're going to get some pressure, this is the week to do it. I like the team laying a point against Atlanta.
I like that a lot better than Atlanta against the Giants last week. That's not even meant to be a ding. It's just like, no, that's a better bet.
Yeah.
All right. We doing what are we doing now? College picks?
Yeah. It's college.
All right, I'll start off with college. I got 4. I like Iowa minus 3.5 in their game. I think that's a solid bet. Kind of going back, the 2 of these are in our big 3 games this week. I like Arkansas plus 18.5 just to cover. I don't see them winning this game, but I think that they do keep it relatively close. I think it's a 2-touchdown game, so probably around 14. So plus 18.5, I think, is a good line there. The only thing on the Notre Dame Cincy game I have is over 50.5. I like the over in that game. I think it's going to be pretty high scoring, kind of like what we've talked about. I think that's going to be back and forth. And this last one, as much as it pains me to do it, I have Auburn at plus 3.5 as well. And I'm not even an Auburn guy. I hate them so much, but I actually like them as a plus 3.5 favorite. So that's my 4 for college football. I've been pretty good on college football lately, so I'm just kind of riding that wave.
Yeah, it's early in the week. I haven't hammered down on some of these, but here's some of the ones I'm looking at. Michigan right now is getting 2.5 against Wisconsin. This might be a trap game for Michigan, but if Michigan is legit, this is a time for them to show it. I might be, especially if that gets to 3, I'd be looking at Michigan. We talked about the Alabama game earlier. I'll take Alabama first half. It's 7.5. Alabama loves getting up big in the first half. It's always a moneymaker, so Alabama first half. I already said Notre Dame money line. They're beating Cincy. I don't need points, so I'm not worried about that. What else is there? There's a couple other. Florida State is playing Syracuse. I know nobody thinks Syracuse is like a powerhouse school, but Florida State is hot garbage, and Syracuse has a really, really good defense. Right now, they're getting 4.5 against Florida State. Not sure if it's something I'm going to pull a trigger on, but it's something I'm looking at. I'm willing to. Syracuse could win that game outright, so I might be willing to take the 4.5 there. Nevada. It was at 7. Right now it's 6.5 against Boise State. I'd still take the 6.5. Boise State is not the Boise State that you people remember. Nevada is really good. Nevada could win that game outright. I know it's on the blue turf. I don't care. I'll take the 6.5 with Nevada. And there was one other game, if I can find it here quickly.
Real quick, that Iowa game is against Baby Tua, so I think that's why it's a pretty easy. And it's
why I'm looking for that game. Let me bring this up because since you brought up the Iowa game. As good as that Iowa defense is, this is the game that if Baby Tua shows up, it puts him on the map. Like Baby Tua has had glimpses, and people who watch college football know Baby Tua and know a little bit about Maryland. But if Maryland hangs in this game or could even pull off the upset, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, I don't think it necessarily happens. I think either Maryland keeps this close or just gets destroyed. It's one or the other. But if Baby Tua puts on a show and Maryland is in this game, Baby Tua is suddenly talked about on a national scale.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So this was the game I wanted to talk about. 10:30 at night. Little pack action. UCLA and ASU. UCLA's giving 3. What did I say 2 weeks ago? Okay, we were talking about how UCLA had just stumbled and how maybe they weren't as legit as we thought they were, and blah, 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 blah. And if you remember in the chat, we had people pounding their chest about ASU and, ASU is the best team in the pack. Lay the 3 with UCLA. Watch what Chip does to Herm. Sun Devil is going to get burnt badly.
And we got one in the chat from Gunner who's got Fresno minus 11 against Hawaii. I have it at 10.5 right now. So if you're going to bet that one relatively soon. That looks like it's getting closer for some reason. So if you can get that at 10.5, do it.
Here's the thing. Fresno's a really good team. I get that. And Fresno probably wins that game. I am hesitant to lay 11 in Hawaii. Hesitant. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but that's not something I'm jumping at doing.
I got sorry, I was just scrolling through because a lot of these updated. I got another one that I do like. I actually like Baylor plus 3.5 against Oklahoma State. I think that's actually going to be a potential upset game. I think Baylor can pull that one out. And then Mississippi State is laying 7 to Texas A&M. The way A&M's been going, that could be a 3-point game. Mississippi State's not the best team in the SEC right now, even with getting screwed over in that game. They shouldn't really hold a candle, but the way that A&M's been playing, I actually like that Mississippi State to cover at a plus 7. So, and the Auburn game is only because they're playing LSU. LSU looked good last week, but they're still trash against conference opponents. So take Auburn all in.
As bad as they've been, again, not sure I pulled the trigger on it, but I'd look at Kansas State getting the 11 against Oklahoma. Okay,
that's not bad either. Yeah.
Because this is the type of game that Oklahoma suddenly stumbles.
Mm-hmm.
So,
they didn't look great last week either.
We're so used to the Oklahoma falter. It's just a matter of figuring out when it is. This could be it.
So true.
This could be it. Okay? The one that you kind of look past, which Kansas State is easy to look past, this could be it.
Could be it. Maybe. We're just waiting for it. Sure. Trap game. Always waiting for that trap game for Oklahoma. All right, you guys got any final rants that you want to get out?
Dan, I'm sure you have one.
Yeah, I do have one. So I'm gonna combine them. It's kind of just a whole NBA rant in one. So first, there's the vaccination thing that came out about how players who are not vaccinated and have to comply to state rules, and if they're forced to miss games, they're not going to get paid. And everybody's up in arms. Well, this is how all the leagues have it set up. The NHL has it set up where if you miss games, you don't get paid. The NFL had it set up where if you don't have enough, the whole team doesn't get paid. I mean, shit. If you got a forfeit, the team that didn't have COVID doesn't get paid. All right, nobody was batting an eye at that when that happened, but we're going to throw up arms about the NBA rule. I mean, it affects 2 guys. All right, and whose fault is it? It's the NBA players' fault. All right, when you have guys like Kyrie, who, by the way, great job, Kevin Durant. All right, you could have got a real player like Bradley Beal for freaking flaky Kyrie, and you stopped it. Yeah, you want to win a championship. Kyrie's going to play 20 games because he's not going to show up half the damn time. But you want to keep him around. Brilliant. All right, but you got Kyrie who doesn't show up to media day and then says, my vaccination status is private. I'm not telling anybody. That's great. Good job. Okay. What employer would allow that to happen? Screw the NBA. What employer says your vaccination status is private? You either, because a lot of places are saying you got to get vaccinated. Okay. And I get that the NBA isn't, a front of the line, job, it's not a healthcare worker or something like that. But still, it's not look, I can be private. All right, schmuck, then don't play and don't ever get paid. Okay, you might as well be Ben Simmons. Oh, I'm going to hold out. Yeah, until about 2 weeks when the checks stop coming and then you owe them $50,000. Then all of a sudden, Joel Embiid's going to be your best friend again. But LeBron James said the most laughable thing I think I've ever heard come out of his mouth.
Oh, it's got to be good.
He said the key to the Lakers winning a championship this year is health. Then why the hell did you assemble an AARP team? Okay. First, it comes out that Russell Westbrook was the third option for that team. They tried to get Bradley Beal. They tried to get somebody else. And then when they couldn't get anybody, they were like, you know what? Fine, we'll take Russ. Whatever. Sure. Okay. But like the combined age of the Lakers is like 487. All right. LeBron's talking about health. LeBron takes half the season off just for like a spa day because he doesn't feel like playing. All right. AD's going to pull a hamstring 3 times a year. Like health. Give me a break. You traded away. You've done what you do at every damn organization you go to. Anybody who was like barely club age, you got the hell out of there for a guy who was getting Social Security. Okay? And last time I checked on this Laker team, there's no Ray Allen there to bail you out. So you better hope you got a Miyagi in that training room the next time AD blows turns an ankle or blows a hit or whatever else. Okay? Because I've seen what a one-man Russ team works out as. That's going to work out wonderfully.
Yeah.
So health, LeBron, give me a better answer. Because if you're banking on health, you ain't winning a championship anytime soon.
That is very true.
Just looking at the Lakers. Okay, just looking at the Lakers roster real quick. They only have 4 guys on their team under the age of 32. So that's on the entire roster. So old AF. I don't really have a rant this week, but I am going to caveat just on the whole NBA players mad about the vaccine thing. I mean, welcome to everybody else in America, motherfuckers. You don't have to like it. It's the way it is. And if you're so upset about it, get the NBA PA to do something about it. You should have to follow your state's rules. The NBA PA ain't going to do shit. But
the NBA PA signed on. They had to be in agreement for this to even go into effect.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand.
But that's exactly the point, though. Like, your own organization that's supposed to be looking out for your benefits said, yes, this is okay, and this is the way that it should be. This is the same thing that they do with, like, you go play in the NFL. Some states have state taxes. Some states don't. Probably more beneficial to play in a state where you don't have state taxes because you get to keep more of your money. This is something that every team knows about, or every player knows about, that they kind of have to work and put into, like, free agency and things like that where they want to go play in the future. I mean, this is the same thing that everybody else deals with. Like Dan said, there's companies all over the country that are requiring people to be vaccinated. A lot of people are quitting their jobs because of that. I don't see these NBA players quitting their jobs. And as much as we talk about, like, it's hard to replace NBA players, it's not hard to replace guys that aren't team players, though. And you brought up Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is going to hold out. The fuck is he holding out for? Who wants his ass right now? It's not like he's a top performer on any team. Guy sucks. You want to sit out? Okay, we will not miss you at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the three biggest names of the unvaccinated guys: Kyrie, Harden, Andrew Wiggins. You know what they all have in common? They don't win shit.
It's true. Kyrie's got a title. Kyrie's got one.
Yeah, Kyrie actually won one. Like by him, like he did hit himself, and then all of a sudden you thought the world was flat and came up with all this crazy shit.
I was going to say nothing surprised me with Kyrie.
Here's the thing, okay? This is the only nice thing I might ever say about LeBron. The moment LeBron left Kyrie, it was like Kyrie had daddy issues. He went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
For sure. All right.
Who the hell said anything about KD? He said KD and Kawhi have titles. Nobody said anything about KD. As far as I know, KD's vaccinated. He hasn't come out and said he's not. I didn't say anything about KD. Shut up.
Shut up, Jeff.
God damn it.
Go back to your hole.
Well, like seriously, if you're gonna post a comment and come back at me, at least come back with what I said. Don't give me somebody that wasn't even mentioned.
Oh man! And on that note, so this is going to be the Beard and the Bookie for today. That is Dan Siegel, the Bookie. That is Josh Hildner, the Beard, and I'm Matty, the host. And we'll see you next week, hopefully.
If we don't get canceled.
If we don't get canceled.
Canceled is a strong term.